is the Glass Cannon Network. Welcome to Cannon Fodder, a behind-the-scenes look at the Glass Cannon Network.
Yo! What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Cannon Fodder. It is Wednesday, January 17th, 2024. Troy has thrown me off with some visual humor. For those listening on the pod, what in the hell is that?
That is a little dude known as Hastur, the Yellow King. You ever heard of him?
Oh, dear.
This is my Yellow King statue that I leave on my desk. It's really one of the only things I have here, besides the light that's supposed to make you not have seasonal affective disorder. I have that too. I'm going to leave that on for the whole show. It's a little blind.
Yeah, that doesn't look creepy at all. Welcome back, everybody. It's a whole new FOD, a whole new week. Troy and I once again are starting off a week under the heavy hand of another storm. We were shoveling pre-show. The snow is coming down here on the East Coast. And, man, I'll tell you, what drives me nuts. Here's what drives me nuts. This is so bad. But I get up. I get up early. I make the kids' lunches. I empty the dishwasher. I'm like looking outside. The snow's coming down. It's all kind of piled up. The kids have a late opening today, which, by the way, pushes the recording of Fodder back. Yeah. And I'm like, they're going to ask me to go out and play in the snow. Like, I know they are. And like, do you know how much shit that I have to do after the long weekend to like get prepped and get ready for Fodder and get ready for a live stream today that I'm doing for Deadlands, but it was yesterday when this airs. And they're just like, can we go outside? And I feel like a monster, Troy. I'm like, what happened to me? Because I'm just like, there's too much to do. We can't do it. You can't go play in the snow. And then, of course, emotional breakdown. And then it's like, all right, yeah, go play in the snow. Like, we'll figure it out.
Dude, it's a real problem. So we usually work on bank holidays, but I took off on Friday and did my annual winter Lake Placid trip with a family. And it was funny. I left here, no snow, went up there, and we had like 3 feet of snow. It just constantly snowed, and I love it. My wife and I, we both love like the cold, the snow, everything. The kids are loving it. And then we got back home yesterday, which was Monday, if you're watching / listening, and my mom was here watching my cat with her friend. They'd like come up. This is their little winter getaway to hang out and watch Linus. And then today they left, and I'm like, all right, I got to go shovel. And I just see the kids got the day off from school because you got the delay. We got the day off. I don't even think it's that bad out there, but it's just constant. And so, I mean, it's great when you're a kid. But as a parent, I'm like, all right, gotta go play in my pretend job. Good luck. It's like with the awful work of like taking the kids, getting them all the ski pants and the boots on. I always feel like such a goof going down because I imagine she thinks I'm just sitting down here playing video games.
Yeah. And, I mean, that's basically what you're doing. Troy is streaming Baldur's Gate 3.
Right. I feel like such an asshole.
Today at noon.
But no, she understands. But it is kind of shitty. I'd be like, Daddy's got to go stare at Asana tasks that I don't want to do.
Daddy has to go delay the deadlines of Asana tasks.
Right. I have to go change some deadlines of Asana tasks.
Push the
that takes a good hour.
All right. Well, welcome back. We got some exciting news this week. Lots of news to get into. We're going to talk about a heavy roleplay episode in episode 17 of Campaign 2.
Yep.
Very, very light on We Are Stupid, but there is a little mention in there. We're going to be targeting Troy Lavallee.
What?
We Are Stupid, so keep an eye out for that. Keep an ear out for that. And then, of course, some listener mail. We're going to do a two-bagger today if we can fit it in. I got 2 great questiones I got to get to. So let's kick it off quickly with the news. The biggest news. This is a big week. It's a season premiere week.
It's a premiere week, yeah.
Tell them about it, Troy, because this is your baby.
Okay. Time for Chaos Season 2 is finally making its return to the Glass Cannon Network. We had this on the calendar all throughout last year, and it just kept getting bumped because it wasn't something I wanted to rush out. And then as it got to be later in the year, I'm like, you know what, this is going to be perfect to like come out in January because we normally have like slow content in January, and we were pretty strong all the way through the end of the year. So yeah, it's coming out. We've got 4 episodes in the can. I think by the premiere we'll have 5 eps in the can for what we're planning to be another 20 episode season. And the cast is loving it, and it's a totally different beast. It's something that like I'm trying to find peace with not dreading to record, because I really want to enjoy doing it, but it's really stretching the boundaries of like what I'm comfortable with. So I'm excited for people to see it, because this first ep is a banger. We start like, if you didn't watch season 1, I think you should go back and watch it. Or if you're like stopped watching it, I'd say go back. But I start with a very solid review, I think, like a recap of all of season 1 to kind of throw people right back into this. And
when I heard review, I thought maybe it was a critical look at the role play of season 1. Now, here's what I didn't like about your performance, Ross.
It's an airing of grievances to start the season. No, I do a solid recap that kind of encapsulates everything that happened. But man, it's a lot. I can't imagine
it's very
what it's like to be a
exciting.
player.
That's this Friday. So Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube.
On YouTube, yes.
Not on Twitch. Similar to Gatewalkers, this will be YouTube premieres. You can watch it live together with your friends at 8 p.m. In the Naish, and you guys can all chat and everything, and some of us will be there hanging out. Yeah. And then obviously it's available on YouTube, and the podcast will be available at midnight that night. So right at heading into Saturday.
Yeah, that's the plan. We just saw a lot of success moving Glass Cannon from Twitch to YouTube, so it's something we want to play around with more this year and kind of get back to doing more live Twitch stuff. So I'm excited. I think we've seen like larger audiences for sure, just because our subscriber base is a lot higher on YouTube, and I think it's a better UI for what we're trying to do.
Yep. And you know what I love about it is the ability to, and I might be speaking out of turn here about what the average viewer, the average customer coming to the channel can do. I don't know if it's just a channel ownership thing. I don't think it is. But if you want, you can watch the video with the chat replay. Yeah. So if you didn't watch it live, at least I know I can, but I don't think that is a channel owner thing. I think that any viewer can come in and watch the chat replay. Do you know for sure? Is that how it works?
I'm positive you can, because I'm logged in as myself on my phone, and I like to go back and check out the chat replays. Yeah. So you have the option.
So it's great to be able to see that interaction, see the reactions that people had all in one place, as opposed to 2 different places like we had it last season. So very much looking forward to that. And speaking of live content on Twitch, you are live the day of this release, Wednesday, January 17th. You are live on our Twitch channel playing more Baldur's Gate 3, 1 p.m. today.
Dude, I'm so into this. I finally played a session off air, which made people a bit upset about, but I was like, you know what? I am just loving this game, and I don't have enough time to really delve into it. I'm always doing it live. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to play. I've got like an hour, and I think I did like an hour and a half. It is so phenomenal. And like the space with which I was playing it, I don't think I quite realized its brilliance, but now that I'm spending some more time with it consistently, it is just such an amazing, amazing game. So I don't know. I'd like to see it all the way through.
Are you playing it on PS5?
Yeah, I'm playing on PS5.
Okay. And you're liking the interface and everything?
Oh
like
my God,
the controller use is very easy and simple.
It's fantastic. It's one of those games that sometimes you just have to sit down and be like, I'm just going to do some inventory management, or I'm just going to like look at my spells and stuff like that. Yeah.
I love those kind of games where you're like, I know I don't really want to get into it today. I just want to do a little cleanup. I just love that kind of stuff.
I used to do that on Dragon Age Inquisition all the time. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to look at my weapons today. But this is great. I'll like sort by weight, and I'm like, why did I pick up that crate? I don't need that.
It's like you're carrying around a barrel of beer, and it's like at a ridiculous weight. You're like, when did I pick this up?
I haven't had any encumbrance issues yet, but I know they're coming, so I'm just trying to get ahead of it. And then I'll be like, what? I've got this magical fucking sword that no one's using, and I'll have to look and see who can use it. But I mean, it's a real wonderful game, and it kind of gets me itching to like play a little 5e before it switches over to 6. Yeah. This is fun. There's some like the bonus action. I really like the bonus action. I try to really make use of it because it's so tactical. All these combats are so tactical, and you really have to like kitchen sink some of them, because you'll just stumble into something where you're 3rd level and you're fighting a creature that's 6th level, and you're like, I either got to flee or be like really on top of my shit. And so I was fighting this huge spider off air, and like huge. And it was just, it was it could phase. It could like plane shift to like phase right next to you and just poison all of you. I'm like, holy, this is really hard. And I noticed that it kept like walking on a web. So I shot a firebolt to the web, burned the web. It fell and like lost half of its hit points. And then it started walking like over this pit, and I burned the web, and it fell like straight to the Underdark, and it was gone. And then I just had to like clean up the mobs. So you get a huge XP boost, and you really have to like think at the whole board, but it's like getting my juices flowing for tactical combat.
That's great. That's great. No tactical combat in this week's GCP. We'll get to that in a second. I'm also streaming this week live on Twitch this Friday. I did a Friday 12 Eastern slot last week. I'm going to do it again this week. And we're going to keep playing Returnal, which I did play off air. I told people I was going to play it off air because I was like, I'm playing this game. I'm having too much fun. And don't worry. I made no progress because it is impossibly difficult, and I will not be finishing the game. It is too hard. It is like Souls level hard minimum. So
really?
It's like, yeah.
Wow.
Like,
so you've got to like take your time, be very cautious on every turn.
I have fought the first boss like 4 times. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but the problem is you have to repeat the entire board each time to get to the boss. So it's like,
yeah,
and it's not but it's not a miserable experience because every time the board's completely new and everything changes, shifts, new weapons, new abilities, new boosts, new armor, new magic, like every single run. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun, but it's hard, man. And I like last time I was off air and I was like, I got what I need. I'm going in. And I took the boss fight the farthest I had taken it yet, but then I died. I was like, God damn it. So if I beat this thing, it's going to be amazing. Dude, it's going to be worth it.
My video, like Instagram and TikTok algorithm is just like spamming me with Elden Ring videos. And I haven't played since I platinumed it. But it's really like make me think, is it time to get back into fucking Elden Ring?
I did 2 full runs.
Build I've never done or something.
I did 2 full runs, absolutely loved it, and I've got a 3rd one on deck, which is I think your initial runs. Like I've never done the full strength and full. What's the stat where you wear heavier armor? Those 2 things.
Endurance.
Yeah, so big armor, big 2-handed weapon, no shield kind of run. I haven't done yet, so I'm looking forward to that. But we'll see one of these days. But I'm glad I'm playing this one.
I was gonna wait for the DLC. I was gonna I'll just wait for the DLC and then do like a true new run because sometimes like you have to be halfway through the game to unlock the DLC.
Unlock the DLC. Also live this week is the we continue. Actually, I should say. Glass Cannon Labs Deadlands is continuing, but it was yesterday, meaning Tuesday this week, we had to do a session. So if you missed it and you're just hearing about this, watch the VOD on our Twitch channel because it's coming back next Thursday, the 25th. So next Thursday, the 25th is part 4, but you might have missed part 3, which was yesterday. So check that out if you did miss it. And then one more piece here before we get into the episode, which was a note McD sent me. He wants us to know that, and it's so funny because you brought it up in GCP episode 17, is the cast dice that were crafted in the Norse foundry. In the forge of the Norse. And we had a lot of just logistical problems with it that were, hard to pin down. It's nobody's fault. Just like shit got, wires were crossed or whatever. But now it's all been squared away and it should be coming and available on the website this week. So keep an eye out to our social channels because sometime this week, you should see those go up on sale. Unique dice sets for each player with unique boxes, carved dice boxes for each player. So it's kind of fun if you guys want to check that out. Keep an eye on our socials for that.
Yeah, they're fun. Angeline, who does all of our tour posters, they created these designs on the boxes based on our personalities and suggestions we made to them. And they're all great and unique in their own way. And they were available at the Philly show, but yours and mine were like stuck on a boat near China. And so they never made it over. We finally got those in, but getting them to our merch purveyor and getting all the photos up, if those are out this week, they're going to be in super limited quantities. And ours have never been sold. So if you're interested in buying them, make sure you get them because once they run out of stock, I don't know when we'll get them back.
Let's get into the episode. So GCP episode 17 is a heavy roleplay episode. We're kind of delving into the mystery here as we come across our first real, what I would call big, like deposition, right? Like we go to Pa Mosby's farm to interview a witness, a couple perhaps witnesses, or actually it was just interview Pa Mosby, who apparently had an incident with a Gorga, and we should just talk to this person. But when we get there, we find out there's also something going on with his son. And so this sort of combo led to two different quote unquote interrogations where we asked these people what their experiences were and what had happened to them. And we start to piece, little bits of clues together. And this is where we come into We Are Stupid. So Professor Eric wanted to highlight, he said no notes in terms of rules on this week's episode, obviously, but he wanted to highlight that Troy Lavallee is doing an unbelievable job GMing. He said, I'm not going to say anything else because he's running it. He's running Gatewalkers. He knows it really well. And he's like, he did stuff in this that was just GM level stuff that was phenomenal. And so I wanted to share that with you, and then that's also, nice. Remind everyone that the best way to get and keep a job here at the Glass Cannon Network is to lay offerings at the ego of Troy Lavallee.
It's true. My love language is praise.
Talk to me about what he's talking about. Obviously, you can't go into too much detail, but here's what I'm guessing. I'm guessing Pa Mosby's farm doesn't have a whole lot in the book, and you kind of brought it to life. I don't know. Talk to me about what's happening here.
I'm hesitant to say too much, I think.
Yeah, I know it's a weird situation because we're still in the middle of the mystery.
Yeah, and like when I think that, I don't know if you guys, maybe it's something that I'm imposing upon you because I feel this way, but I think there's a tendency out there that like when stuff is being added to the adventure or changed, that a player may scoff at knowing that. It's like, there's no way that what you've come up with is better than what the adventure writers did. Maybe it's just something that I feel like. Sometimes I'm like, this isn't it.
That's exactly how you feel. And that is not how I feel.
I impress that upon people, so I'm hesitant to say like what's in the book or what's not. But like, I will say that, over the next few weeks, there is very little in the book about what's to go down. And so, but I think that there are ways that these next few sessions could be handled by some GMs where it's just a lot of rolling and very little role playing, and we just move on to the next thing. But I wasn't interested in doing that. I was interested in just kind of playing with you guys to give you guys an opportunity to role play. We just came out of a big dungeon. I wanted a chance for you guys to talk more. And I think the best way to do that is just to present you with NPCs and give them some quirks and see what happens. And I think what really helps is like, I know what's going on really well. I think I've done my homework. And so what I'm doing is this sort of experimental GM tactic. I don't want to call it, where I'm just kind of like, you ever heard the expression jumping off a cliff and building your wings on the way down?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of what I'm doing. Like, I'm just starting with something that I don't really know where it's going to go, like an improv game, like a Harold improv, and seeing what you guys latch onto and then just playing with you. And throughout the course of that play, seeing if I can bring in story elements. And that's kind of what happened here. Like, it's funny. There's no way I can say this without sounding conceited, but while I was in the moment, and this used to happen when I did plays on stage, I'd be like, oh man, I am in the zone right now. I could step outside of myself and like watch myself
in threes, like left and right.
I could watch myself on stage, and you just knew in some performances, like, oh man, I am in the pocket right now. And I felt like that in the episode because I was surprising myself. I was like, oh man, I am making it rain out here, and I'm looking at my computer, and there's nothing there. It's just like we're playing and doing stuff like that. And it helps having thousands of hours of practice in front of me, but it was really, really cool. With these people. Yeah. We've toured the country together. It makes a big, big difference. But I was just like really surprising myself. And it's something that I'm trying to do a lot more of. And I've talked about this before, but to see it actually work in practice was a cool moment.
I'm going to come at you a little bit here because I don't like hearing you talk so greatly about yourself.
I understand.
Got to knock you down a peg.
Please.
But I also, I don't think this is helpful for anyone to hear how great you are. Hear you talk about how great you are. So let's see how we can come to something
practical
that can help somebody, right? Which is like, you said you were prepping less than ever these days because of how you wanted to approach this new game. Now, part of that fits into what you're saying right here, but part of it doesn't jive with me, which is, you saying, this adventure so well, you did your homework. Like, you also said you were prepping less. So what's the truth here? Is it because having you read more of this adventure total than you ever read of Giant Slayer? Like ahead?
For sure.
Right. But what does it mean when you say you're prepping less then?
Because I'm prepping less of the interactions. Like, I don't have dialogue written out, whereas in the past, maybe I would have snippets of dialogue or whole speeches ready to go that I would have to change in the moment based on what you guys said. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just like really tapping into what's happening. Man, I wish I kind of want to tell you more because it would be helpful. Like, I don't want to just pat myself on the back. It's funny. So Francis does the video editing, and I've been doing the audio editing, but I'm training him on the audio editing to take this off my plate. And so we did this episode together, and so we're on a fucking Zoom call while I'm logged in to the work computer from my home, and I'm editing there, and I'm stopping to like explain why I'm making a certain cut or why I'm changing something. And throughout the course of this episode, there was only one edit. It was almost a completely unedited episode, and there was one little
bad start to training.
Yeah. I mean,
this is what it's always like.
But it's funny. I mean, it was almost the first perfect episode and sort of no edits. I've never had a no edit episode. Maybe you have. I think you maybe have, but I've always had like one.
I've done some no edit episodes of Blood of the Wild. There might have been one or two of Legacy of the Ancients, but Blood of the Wild has a handful already of perfect eps, just because Jared and Mary Lou and Paula to a certain extent as well are so accustomed to live play that it helps make the edit a little bit easier.
Oh my God. When we switched in COVID, put Giant Slayer and Androids on hold and started playing more, I mean, those years of being live or recording without editing and also doing live shows, it has completely changed how we do things. I think back to early GCP. I mean, I'd be making edits every 3 seconds, even in role play episodes, just like, oh, that was clunky or that was like, it just doesn't happen anymore. The edits are so easy, and I purposely leave stuff in that maybe other podcasts would edit out because I want you to see a little bit how the sausage is made.
Rawness.
I want it to seem raw. But this one had like one thing where like you went to talk, and I started to talk, and then I stopped to let you finish, and I just cut that out. That was the only cut in the episode. But anyways, it wasn't a great episode for him to learn my process. However, during it I was pausing and explaining like, so this here I just completely made up. And they kind of latched onto it. So then I was giving him like a director's cut of explaining like my process. And he was like, man, this would be so good for people to know. I'm like, I know, but I don't really want to talk about it too much. But then later I'd be like, all right, you see right here in this moment is when I realize that I can tie this in to something in the larger narrative. And then, so I was like going through my process while watching it with him. But what I will say is that I really don't want to give too much away. All right. So for example, when Jiminy is like, the devil's come to take me away. I just thought that was a funny joke that I could make to make you guys laugh. And that was supposed to be the end of it. But when you latched onto it, I just turned it into something else and ended up being, in my opinion, the highlight of the episode when Brother Ramius is conducting this.
It was so intense.
Scene. But the thing is, like, I have in my brain important things to get out to you guys, or to like that the adventure wouldn't explicitly tell the players that I think would really help you guys along the way. So I'm just, as you become interested in things, I'm finding ways to get that information out through role play.
Well, this brings me to my next and final question for this one, because we are at an important juncture in the story in that I can't dig too deep here. It's not the time to go digging into process and the mystery, because we're really we're just seeing what's above the surface right now. Like there's so much beneath, and I don't want to try to push you into spoiling things at all. However, from a GM standpoint, this is my final question. And you just started saying this, like, how do you determine the pace at which you trickle clues, right? Like, because you have to get us a certain amount of information to move the story forward in some way. And you want that. I mean, do you completely control that is I guess another question. Is like, do you sometimes hold back? Because I don't recall a lot of die rolls in this episode. Like,
You
I
guys
don't recall
roll before you talk to Pa Mosby, and then I say, based on the results of that, we'll see what information comes out.
Right, but it all kind of felt like it came out of role play, and I don't know. I guess I'm just like, is there a methodology to how many clues you get in an episode, right? That kind of thing. Like, was there one major thing in this episode that we figured out? That even if we don't know it's major yet, did you release that by your decision, or did that come because of a dice roll? Like,
there's information you got and there's information you missed based on your rolls. Now, I imagine there are GMs out there that are running this that will be like, all right, so you go to Pa Mosby's farm. Everybody roll one of these 4 checks. And you roll those checks and you're like, this is what you learned at Pa Mosby's farm. You learned this, this, and this. All right, so now what do you guys want to do? You want to rest and go to the Thinlands farm? And that's it.
Perfect.
I'm 100% sure there are people who run
That's
things
my
like
kind of
that.
game. No, I enjoy it. I know everybody else really enjoys these extended role play kind of things, but I just I'm greedy for the clues. I'm like, just give me the clues.
Well, here's the thing: is what we did allowed you to get those same clues that another game might get without the role play. But I was also able to layer in some very interesting things about the deeper mystery going on here that you would. There's no way you would have got it. In fact, I think it's possible you wouldn't even get it until much later in the story, and it wouldn't have the same impact because now...
And you, as the GM, would not have had as much fun weaving that together because you wouldn't have had that opportunity. Like you said yourself, some of these opportunities came up to you in the moment. You didn't think of them while you were prepping the episode.
No, I kind of listen to what you guys are interested in and roll with it. And then as I'm doing that, I'm like, ooh, I'm thinking live, because we're not cutting, we're not editing. I'm like, oh my God, this could be a great opportunity to start trickling in something here that's not even explicitly said in the book, because I know when you guys realize something later, it's going to have so much more impact, even if it goes away from the story. So I'm trying to get to a point now where I read what's in the book and say, interesting. Okay. Now let's go play our game and see what happens. And if it's close to what the book is doing, great. If it's exactly like the book, great. If it's something completely different, that's okay too. And Time for Chaos has really given me the confidence to do that. Now, the difficult thing is when you're doing this and you're giving the players sort of the keys to the car, the difficulty is if their choices or what they're interested in isn't interesting, you as a GM then have to find a way to pivot it into something interesting, or just let them know that this line of thinking is not going to lead anywhere. And that's tricky because sometimes I think, and I've done this before, you can let it go on for too long and that this isn't going to lead to anything. And maybe it's because you're sitting there thinking can I turn this into something? And then you realize you can't. Other times it's they're just harping on something that is a dead end. And sometimes you have to be all right, so you talk to him for a little while and there's really nothing else you're going to get out of him. And you got to be comfortable doing that as well.
Well, yeah, you know what? I mean, I kind of felt, if I'm honest, like that in the very, very beginning of the episode. I didn't like the approach of anyone at the table, from what I recall, this was a while ago, to the scratched in symbol on the floor. That was the big cliffhanger of the previous episode.
Yeah.
We begin the episode in the room, and you're kind of so where are you headed? Pa Mosby's farm? And I'm like, well, hold on a second. And people are debating the Thinlands Farms or Pa Mosby's farm. Let's just go to Pa Mosby. You know what I mean? And I'm just how are we not talking about the elephant in the room, right? Someone did this. And my first instinct, my meta instinct was that there was nothing there. And there was nothing we were going to find out from that thing. It was just meant to creep us out, and you had nothing to add to it. And maybe some of the players kind of picked up on that, but I was I can't in good conscience as a character not be where did this come from? Who heard what? Nobody heard anything. What's the symbol? What's the history of this symbol? You know what I mean? So I don't know. What was your feelings on that moment? Did you kind of get to a point where were you almost like, I got to tell them, like, you're not going to get anything from this?
No,
it's just meant to creep you out. Now, can you move on?
I think just in my brain, I was trying to think. I was just trying to know what your guys' plan was, so I could start thinking about what to do. Yeah, and so I just forgot maybe that like you guys just found this and that it might have some impact on you.
Yeah.
I just wanted some direction on where we were going. I think it was just carelessness. Like I should have been like, so what do you guys do about this star here?
Yeah.
It wasn't that it wasn't important. I think I just wanted to like start mentally preparing for what you guys were going to do, because Thinlands Farms is much different from Pa Mosby's farm. And so in my head, I have to like start thinking about how am I going to make this interesting?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, we didn't really get much from that symbol, but it creeped the hell out of me. And I don't know. I think it's important that someone is able to get that close to us without being detected. Like that is freaky, and rightfully so. And we don't need all the answers today, but it's just something to think about.
Dude, we're cooking. I mean, it's really like we're in it now. I think that the Giant Slayer, it was like right around episode 12, the Orc raid and the Jasun situation where that's what really hooked people. And I wish it didn't take 12 episodes to do that. But I kind of think the same thing is happening here. It's not that those the initial episodes don't have that same pop. It's just now everyone kind of understands what the situation is here. We've got a new character. We've lost a character. And the mystery, while still very opaque, is starting to coalesce in weird ways. And your enemy seems really close now. At first, it was this esoteric, like, Bolon. He must be a problem. And then you realize, oh, there's somebody else. But now you're seeing things in alleyways. You're seeing symbols outside your door. You're talking to people who've been haunted by visions through 2 generations. What the fuck is going on here?
Right. And we're talking about an enemy who is potentially millennia old, right? Like, yeah. So it is a daunting task with more to come next week, obviously. So we'll keep digging into it next week. But for now, let's get in some listener mail before we head out of here. Good buddy. There he is, Mr. Nick Lowe, ladies and gentlemen.
On the ones and twos.
Gotta get your brain up on it. Time sit in the mail. Gotta cue that fucking.
All right, let's kick it off with Journalist Joe from the UK. Journalist Joe has appeared on the Fodder before. Journalist Joe asks the hard-hitting questions.
Oh, boy.
Journalist Joe is good at what he does. You know what he's not good at? Journalist Joe from the UK?
Spelling
the word favorite.
How did did he put a U in there?
He puts a U in there, that dummy.
Go take a left to hell.
I mean, for real, like, it's just so funny to me how Google Docs is like, that is misspelled.
Favorite.
Really? What are you're just an American program?
It's a different setting. You have to put T all over your keyboard. Then
right. Journalist Joe asks a question I think is going to come ready for some hot debate on the boards. Woo! He starts it right off. I know there's a mixed opinion on this, but I love capital OLOVE fan crits and fumbles. The randomness, unbalanced, and often universe-breaking nature of them is pure entertainment to me. As it seems 1E Starfinder content on the network is not going to make a comeback, could we get a regular segment where Skid reads A&A submissions and gives a brutally honest review? No, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But he says, one of my favorite parts, this is where he misspelled it, of every show is each time a natty 20 or natty 1 is rolled, the mixture of dread and excitement is palpable. Could I kill a PC? Or more likely, will Skid brand me an idiot? Either way, I can't wait. So it is a good question. This is something we've discussed internally a few times. I just wanted to kind of bring it out there, put it out there in the ether for people to talk about it. People may not know this that are not on certain boards, whether it be subreddit or Discord. There's a lot of people that do not like fan crits and fumbles because they think that they foul up the game balance, and the game balance is very important to ensuring both that the characters survive when they're meant to and don't survive when they're meant to, right? Like the what is meant to happen, the correct fate of the story in their estimation gets messed with. On the other hand, I think a lot of people just think they're fun and funny, and the more dangerous and the more imbalanced, the better. Can I ask you like where you stand on it as a gamer, Troy?
Yeah,
Not as a
so
businessman, as a gamer.
I can't divorce the two because they're so important.
They are one. They have become one.
I think it is a very fun way for our subscribers to interact and engage with our content, and for us to engage with them. I think it's great. I think that despite our best efforts, we've had a hard time curating them because there's just so many more subscribers than there were initially. It was a lot easier to like update the spreadsheet every once in a while. And so sometimes things will come out and be like, whew, man, that needed about 4 or 5 edits before it got to the show. And so that's tricky. And like, I don't like the game breaking ones, but I think I've also become better at just like restating them in the game world.
Right.
You know, it's like, all right, well, that didn't happen. An alien didn't pop out of the sky. You know, there was a good instance of that in Strange Aeons recently. It was like a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy one, I think. And I was like, well, we'll say that like you fell back and something hit on your head. So I like to restate them. That's for flavor's sake. That's just kind of fun for the audience. It's just like making sure that the game world isn't breaking. But I understand people not liking them. I think it's tricky. I think it's also tricky that they worked differently in first edition than they do in second edition, where crits are so more, so they just happen more often, but we're still only doing them on nat 20s and nat 1s. So, I mean, I think overall I like them. I think that they just need a type of editing that we are currently unable to like. They need more care than we're able to give them with our sort of balance.
Well, I think in one respect, I think that you can absolutely blame us, not the submitters, for imbalanced or silly crits and fumbles that take you out of it, right? If your complaint is that they take me out of the story, you can blame us for that. It's just something that has been really, really hard for us to devote time to with all the other stuff that we have going on, the proper curating of those submissions. So that's on us. That said, I think that curating during the show is perfectly fine. You know what I mean? Like, I think tweaking the GM is always in control of the game. There's plenty of times in Blood of the Wild where Jared just says, I'm not even pulling a fan critter fumble on this one. I don't want to. And there's reasons for that. And the GM is always in control. The GM can always change whatever they want if something seems ridiculous. However, I agree that I love them because it is a way to see all of the different people that we don't know that are a part of our show. You know what I mean? And to hear their names and where they're from, what countries they're from, you know, what far off places. It's just fantastic. We had one recently. I don't know if the episode's aired or not, but we had one recently that I was editing that was from Alaska. And I was like, every time I see one from Alaska, I'm just like, thank you so much for listening to our show. And I hope you get out. I hope it's okay. I hope you survive.
Judo.
Exactly. I do. I love the interaction, and I am never concerned. Look, I don't run any Pathfinder games on this network anymore. If I did, I wouldn't be concerned in the least with these things. I would change anything I wanted on the fly as a GM that I felt was crazy. You know, if it was like, if you roll this failure, you're frightened 5. I'd be like, oh, okay. You're frightened too, okay? And let's move on. Like, I don't care about maintaining the sanctity of the original submission. What I care about is hearing their name and hearing where they're from and letting them know that we appreciate them being a fan. That's it.
Yeah,
that's what they're there for.
I think we all have to have a better understanding that, like, Joe's going to read it, and then the GM is going to decide how it actually works. And everyone just has to be okay with that.
Right. And yeah, I agree that the game system has been built to not have these happen. The game system is built to have crits be as rewarding as they're meant to be, and fumbles be not as painful as they're meant to be. We just don't play that game. Our game has a little bit more swings. It has a little bit more danger and a little bit more, reward for players, right? There's a little bit more they can go their way. There's a little bit less they can go their way. The question you have to end up asking yourself is the game balanced in our game, right? Does as many bad things happen as good things for the players? And I would venture to say yes.
Yeah, I think there's only, correct me if I'm wrong, only been one character death that resulted from a fan fumble, which I think was in Raiders.
Yeah. But that also resulted That was coincidental more than anything else.
Yeah.
It came from a die roll of a homebrew rule. The famous 86-69 rule.
Yeah.
So there were multiple layers to that. It was a homebrew sort of thing. People don't like that. I get it. But at the end of the day, let's boil down what it really was. A die roll.
Yeah.
It happened because of an extremely unlikely die roll. And that's what kills characters. It's fine.
The dice know. They know. They know it's your time.
Anyway, thanks, Journalist Joe. One more before we get out of here.
Yeah.
And this goes back to the premiere of Time for Chaos. I hesitate to even ask this question because I feel you're going to say something mean about me.
What?
Nick from Vancouver. Thank you for writing in. Nick from Vancouver. Looking back, this is for you, Troy. This is a question for Troy. Looking back on being a player on Get in the Trunk, has it informed you in any way in how you approach running Call of Cthulhu type games? Have you found any little things that you would not have discovered if you were never a player in that sort of mystery type game that you transfer over to being a GM?
Trying to think. One of the things I always notice is like, I want my players to take really good notes, but then I take shitty notes. I'm like, you got to practice what you preach a little bit. But I'm like, man, you're really missing out not taking notes here. And then I still like, well, why am I taking notes? I need to take better notes. But I think that I've definitely been influenced by the masterful way with which you handle multi-location scenes. You know what I mean? Like when one or two investigators are over here and one or two over there. That's definitely informed the way that I do things. In Call of Cthulhu, I think they split up a little less than I'd like them to, but at the same time, it's kind of the only thing that's going to keep them alive, because you never know. It's like, oh, you know what? The two of us will go over there. I'm thinking like, you are both going to die if that happens. If all four of you go, only one of you will die.
Right.
So it's a little
but this
tricky.
way, you're both going to die. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like in so far in Delta Green, the way that these scenarios have been paced out, you're kind of always doing stuff, investigating, and then getting into trouble. But you're not faced with death kind of until the end. Or, you can do a wrong turn into death, and maybe we just haven't. With Call of Cthulhu and Masks in general, like, you could be like, why don't we just start here and go check this out and be like, get killed with something like that. Like, they're not written in such a way that it's like the end of the section is your big fight. Those tend to have big moments as well, but like, there's so many other ways to die on the way to there. But I definitely been influenced by that. I mean, you'll see it. You'll see it right away in the new season. And there were a lot of episodes of last year of Time for Chaos that you definitely know that I'm cribbing from you in the way it's just like, hold on one second. Now let's go back to the hallway. And I love being able to do that. And it gets the players being like, come
It's
on,
like it's mini
fucking
Cliffies.
hate you. Yeah,
It's a bunch of mini Cliffies.
Yeah.
That's really fun. I will say, speaking to your notes thing, that's something that I took, Nick, when I was running Delta Green, that I took from my one season of playing Delta Green, is I set out to take really good notes. I was like, I am going to solve this goddamn mystery. I can never solve anything, but this time I'm going to do it. And I really struggled, and I really, I took good notes for a little while, and then I just fell off. And even with my good notes, I couldn't figure anything out, and I got frustrated with it and stuff like that. And it definitely informed me as a handler that hand-holding is okay. That there are times when you can just disseminate information and repeat information, and just, don't get on the player so much about note-taking, and don't punish them so much for not taking notes, because ultimately, like, you don't either. So shut up. I'm glad that you're kind of in that same zone. I like to lay everything out, and if you guys come to something on your own, it's that much more rewarding, and it's great. But if you don't, I'm not going to hold everything back. I will walk you through it and be like, well, you think maybe this and this together could mean X, and it just helps to for everybody to have fun and keep the story moving. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, great question. Last thing from Nick, real quick. Anything I can look forward to in season 2 of Time for Chaos? You got any, is there any, a little nug? Is there any?
If you've watched any of the promos we've dropped, you probably have an idea of where they're going. But but I will say, I mean, right out the gate, there's stuff that goes down that even I wasn't prepared for. And I was like, all right, I guess this is going to be a part of this season. And, one of the things that I told them, initially was like, all right, so, think of this season as like another arc for your character. You came in as brand new characters in season 1. You started on Peru, and then there was some time passing, and then you came into New York and did that. Well, there'll be some time passing now, but it's a lot shorter. So think about like what direction you want to take your character in. What are the secrets they want to get through? What do you want to deal with? And then let's see how through improvisation we can, work through some of those things and without knowing where the ending's going to be. And so they all kind of came in with very interesting things that right out of the gate, I'm just kind of testing immediately with them through improv. And, you just watching Ross Bryant just do unbelievable things right away, and watching everyone just watch Ross. It's fun. So I can't tell you too much, but I will say it gets crazy quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good to know. That is going to wrap it up for this week of the FOD. Thank you, as always, for hanging out with us, for chilling with your boys, with your buddies.
That's all
we got an encounter. No, I'm thinking about what's coming. We have an encounter coming up. The Cliffy was danger descending upon the camp, was it not?
Yeah, 3 Gorgas, it looks like. They gave you a handful last time, but now you're second level. Should be easy, right?
More to talk about next week, including all of Professor Eric's notes on what we're about to do wrong. Looking forward to it, guys. Check us out on twitch.tv/The Glass Cannon for Troy and I's live streams. Time for Chaos Season 2 premieres on Friday night. Gatewalkers is there on Thursday night on our YouTube channel. Check it out there. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Peace on up and out.